guest today, we have Jessica Cadmus. She's the founder of Rogue Paq. Jessica, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I want to start by just, really getting a little bit of background on yourself. How did you first find cannabis? Everyone has their own story. What's your story?
It's true. Everybody does have their own beginning. I encountered it pretty early. I was 13 and I grew up in a place that is pretty off the beaten path. And so I feel like there were a lot of kids who were super curious about things. And because it wasn't like a lot of other distractions, let's say, or other stimulus readily available, you sometimes got to exploring things maybe a little earlier than somebody who would live in a city, let's say. So yeah, I tried it when I was 13, but to be honest, I fell asleep. Like I got so tired that I never revisited it until college.
I remember my first smoking experience being very exhausting or very tired as well and wanting to just go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was out with friends and sort of driving around as you do at that time in your life. And I think I fell asleep in the back seat. I would just got exhausted and that was the end. So I never, like I said, it wasn't until college when I really picked it up with any regularity.
And when you got to college, was it kind of a everyday thing for you? Was it just an occasional thing for you?
When I got to college, it was an everyday thing, and this is why. I, at the time, was pursuing three majors, which I achieved in the end. And at the same time, was working anywhere between 2 and 3 jobs at the same time. So, as you can imagine, that it's breakneck pace, and I needed at the end of the day, which for me was like 3 a.m. because I bartended in the evenings. And then in the morning, I would wake up and work a shift at my local bagel store before classes. And so I needed to be able to fall asleep when I got home. Like I couldn't be up racing in my mind for any time really, because there were only a few hours to sleep. I had so much going on. And it was for me really a way to just wind down and then, be able to get the rest that I needed between bartending and bagels and class.
And so today, when you think back on your cannabis use, are you still like an everyday user or have you graduated beyond just smoking? Do you use tinctures, topicals?
I kind of use a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. I don't smoke every day anymore. Life has evened out a little bit more. So I don't feel that, need every night to use it to get myself to sleep. But I do use tinctures in the morning. I do use, some CBD topicals. And then I smoke mostly for pleasure. It's like a really nice way to wind down, when I have the time to do it. And it's definitely a different approach. Like in college, it was just always a bowl or a water bong, have a couple puffs, go to sleep. And now there's like so much more ritual behind it. And I really, really love that and enjoy it. And it's a way for me to go down even before I eat, smoke anything. I love to roll. So, it just gets you in that mood. It's like, setting the stage for this wonderful thing. And then, like I said, it's really a means to either connect with people when the world's open or a way to just, again, calm down.
Setting the creative stage. And I
Yeah.
completely agree. I mean, cannabis is so great for just expanding, your mind, your creativity, and that must have played directly into Rogue Paq. I mean, tell us about your product. Tell us about your business. It's so aesthetic. It's so gorgeous. I love it. Tell us a little bit about where you got the idea from and what it was like bringing the brand to the surface.
Thank you. So, like I said, I've had a really long relationship with cannabis, and I've also really always been super fascinated by design And so even in all the years prior to, becoming a wardrobe stylist, which I do currently, and launching Rogue Paq, I always sought beautiful ways to, carry my ritual and carry my cannabis, and beautiful tools to use. Like, it was something that I was always really fascinated by. And when I couldn't find something, I would just make it. So for years, I had a case similar to the ritual cases that I sell now. And my friends would always be complimenting me and, can you make me one? And so it was kind of this thing for a while. But if you fast forward, many years, like I said, I'm also a wardrobe stylist, and I work with really sophisticated people. Like, we do tons of work, spend tons of hours, lots of money, energy, all the different resources into curating and cultivating their style. And when I realized that they were carrying and storing their cannabis in really unsophisticated ways, I felt like I had to respond. Like, I actually initially went out searching for something in the market, like, when they travel, what is it gonna, what are they gonna put it in? We can't have a Ziploc bag in their Gucci luggage, or, like, it didn't make sense to me. So I went out and I looked. I didn't find anything that I thought was beautiful and luxurious and sort of meshed well with their aesthetic and lifestyle. And so that's when I designed and manufactured the ritual cases, which I've since gotten a patent on. So that was exciting. And then from there, I just started building out the line of accessories. Like, I realized people want beauty across the board, and they, want access to pretty tools, and they want access to things that are sort of more common in the market. So that's kind of how it developed.
Tell us a little bit about the manufacturing process, or how you source your materials.
Yeah, I knew from the beginning that, because I'm a wardrobe stylist and because I deal with fabrics and materials all the time, I knew I wanted something that just felt really luxurious and that was durable, and very sort of functional as well. So, I think people have different positions on leather, but for me, I knew I wanted to do at least a leather version. And lambskin made sense to me because it's so soft, it's so supple. It's just such a beautiful, durable material. And I've always loved it, like for jackets, purses, gloves. And so that's how I created the leather version. And then I also offer a vegan version because I do understand that not everybody is interested in leather, and they want something sustainable, and they want to, you know, um, have an answer for that desire. So we also have a vegan version as well, which has a vegan suede interior too. So fully vegan.
Awesome. And so tell us about the products in your line. So we've got a carrying case. What else do you have?
Yeah, so we have a full-size carrying case, which can be monogrammed with your initials. Or I don't know, people have been getting super creative. I have bought like a bunch of little tiny special characters. So you can get, your full name with maybe a cannabis leaf and a little bong or a little joint. And, I just made one that was cannabis leaf queen. So Canna Queen, and, just, make it personal, something that's either shows your good taste or shows your good sense of humor. Um, and then I have a mini carrying case as well, which is just sort of a smaller pouch for folks who, prefer to carry something a little bit smaller. And then there's a whole line of tools. I have everything from the best-selling hemostats, which, if we're talking about people who have had a long sort of history with cannabis, like that's a very nostalgic tool, I think. And it can be used to tamp your roll when you're rolling your own. And then you use it as a clamp, like a joint clip when you're smoking, which is really great to keep your hands odor-free, burn-free, and protect your nails, which is why I always used it. I always have like these long fingernails and I just wanted like not to get the yellow or have them smell or whatever. So that's kind of where that came from. Um, and I also carry um, I think I have some right here. These people are really into these little Sen Nudes matches, if you can see them.
Oh, those are awesome.
Yeah, which are really, really fun, and people really respond well to them. I have a couple different versions. Here's the Everybody's Nude. We got tattoos on these. We got all the different color skin, which is really pretty. I have a whole line of bud trimming scissors, which you can use obviously to trim your bed, but also to cauterize your joint. If you're just, smoking a little bit, you want to put it out and preserve it for later. This way it doesn't get that sort of yucky taste when if you just push it into an ashtray, it like, develops an aftertaste this way. So if you cauterize it, there's no taste associated. I have several, well, I'm sorry, I have a joint rolling tray, which I love, and it says Joie de Weed on it. And I just got a new one in, which I'm excited to put up on my website. Have grinder, have a new one coming. So yeah, I have a little bit of everything. The only thing I don't carry is like pipes or bongs. But rolling papers, like all the other accoutrements, glass tips, reusable. So there's like definitely an emphasis on reusability, sustainability. Like I try not to carry things that you have to throw away. Butane lighters, for instance, it's just about like, how can you purchase something that's going to endure and be beautiful and just make your experience that much more elevated.
Well, you're classing up the joint, and I appreciate that.
So I'm trying to do. Yeah, thank you.
So in this industry, there's so many stigmas that we have to fight against. There's a lot of pushback. What have you experienced along your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest stigma is, this sort of like idea of like a stoner, right? Like that you look a certain way and that you're going to be unproductive if cannabis is part of your life. And that really like deeply offends me as somebody who had 3 jobs and 3 majors and like did that using cannabis. Like it's just the complete opposite of my experience. And so I get really upset when people feel like that's how it is for everybody. Everybody's, a stoner or like a waste. And so a lot of the reason why I designed the line is to fight against that stigma, because I do think that when something is beautiful, when things are beautiful, they feel more accessible to people. People are more ready to talk about them and share them and use them themselves. So I do feel like beauty is a gateway to sort of like understanding and acceptance. And that in turn helps to fight the stigma that cannabis is just this loser drug, and I'm very, very passionate about changing people's minds in that regard.
That's awesome. And I hear you on that. I mean, we are actively fighting against this stoner perception that I will go ahead and say the government has put out there, for the majority of people. And it takes a community to combat that. But one business at a time, and Rogue Paq is really working to help normalize the perception of cannabis. What are some of the core values of your brand in this industry?
I think core values are inclusivity, absolutely, social awareness, sort of, again, the breaking down of stigmas and being, very open and aware. I just feel like there's enough room for everybody. Let's all pump each other up. Like, let's all join forces and push for this plant that's so amazing. Like, we don't need to be stepping on one another in order to do this thing. Like, let's do it together. It makes so much more sense to me. And I really feel like I've been super lucky because I developed an amazing community in the cannabis world, and so mostly women actually. And beyond just like support for business, these people have become incredible friends, but like I think we all share this mentality that we're going to be better together. And I love that. That's so different than I come from fashion. Like, there's a lot of competition there, and it's just not everybody's way to be so inclusive. And I just love that about the cannabis community, and I really hope that that's something that Rogue Paq as a brand, and me myself as the founder, project.
Inclusivity, social awareness, so important in the cannabis industry, making sure that
Yes.
everyone has a seat at the table, that their voice is heard. And the term social equity means something different to every person. We know what it means in general, but what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ties back into the values, right? Like, it means fairness, justice, equality for everyone. That's the most important word actually in that sentence. Everyone. It does not matter. You should not be excluded for any reason. Like, everybody needs, as you say, to be heard and to have a voice and to have a seat and to be able to connect with the plant, share that, and be a part of this thing that's growing. um and then this is where social equity, like, and I think we'll probably end up talking about this, but it's very difficult to hold those beliefs and to push forward in those regards socially, and then to have this awareness that there are people sitting in prison for non-violent cannabis offenses. Like, it's so it's a great motivator to try to change that and to do something more, and to, again, open up the dialogue and break down the stigma so we can all be talking about this and we can change that, because that is just awful. I mean, you could use a million words that are stronger than that, but I'm just going to say awful. Yes.
Joining the cannabis industry can be impossible for some people, or they feel it's impossible, whether it's they've been in prison like you mentioned, maybe they're trying to come back from a felony and they don't have opportunity. Mentorship is so important in cannabis. I mean, this is an industry that is building itself. We're building each other up. We're building history as we go along. Our history's been erased. We don't really have a history prior to 1930, when it was used by DuPont as a tool to make it illegal. And so, have you had a mentor through your time in cannabis, and do you mentor others that are trying to get into the space?
Absolutely. Like, I think what I mentioned before about this sort of network of women has been really, really important to me. And I feel we all sort of serve as mentors to one another. And, it's been so important because these women are, we're all so diverse, and everybody's opinion is put forward. And there's so much value that I've gotten out of that, sort of constant dialogue that I have with them. And so I would say for sure, we're all mentors to one another. And I've learned a ton in terms of like how mentorship works within cannabis specifically, because everybody has had very, very different experiences. Like, my experience as, a white girl smoking pot when she was 13, like, to be honest with you, I wasn't even really nervous about it. And then other people in the group will share these experiences where they had much, they were treated much differently when they would try to obtain or purchase or use cannabis. And so, I think I've learned a lot about other people's experiences, and that's invaluable, right? Because it shapes everything you do. And as part of that, one thing that came out of these constant discussions that we have is a program that I put forward for Rogue Paq, which is called Rogue Paq Gives Back, and it's ongoing. 100% of the proceeds of this particular bundle that we sell go to help communities who have been sort of disproportionately affected by cannabis arrests. So we do a lot of work with Last Prisoner Project, which everybody knows, a national bailout. And then through this group of women, people will put forward, oh, this is, a much smaller organization, but something that we really believe in. Like, does anybody want to get together and do a donation here? And so I use the funds that way. So that's been like something that's growing. And I have to say, like, every time somebody purchases one, I get so excited because I'm like, these people are voting with their dollars, right? Like they want to support this idea. And I think I'm so grateful for everybody who's spent it in that way.
What is a day like in your position at the company from start to finish? What is it like?
I mean, everyone, I'm sure, and this goes for everybody, every single one is different. I mean, I think it's completely an exercise in juggling, right? Like I said, I also am a wardrobe stylist, so I have, a pretty large number of personal clients that I deal with on a daily basis, while also running Rogue Paq pretty much by myself. And then in addition to that, I have 2 small kids who have been home most of the pandemic. So what I try to do, and which cannabis really helps with, is try to slow myself down as much as possible. The night before, usually I do this, and then sort of look at the next day and think to myself, okay, what are the priorities? And whatever it is that day, whatever the most important thing is, I'm going to be, or attempt to be, as present, as available for that thing as possible. So if today is a day that, my kid is doing an online presentation on his or her book, that's what I'm going to be there for because they need me. If today is the day that I'm meeting with, a brand to talk about a collaboration, that's the thing I'm going to be present for. And it sounds like very easy, but it's not. When you have all these other competing interests and people are texting you and emailing you and calling you, and, you want to be very responsive, it is, or I should say, I'll speak for myself, I do find it difficult to have like, 1 to 3 priorities and to really, really try to focus on those and do those as well as possible. But that seems to be a formula that really works for me. If I can keep checking in with myself, all day and make sure that I'm being accountable for that approach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're a Jill of all trades, like many of us in the industry, so many things going on, so many moving parts, and cannabis is constantly changing and evolving, and more states are coming online, New York being
New York.
So it's very, very exciting. What are your thoughts on the future of cannabis? I mean, we have a new administration right now. Hopefully they can turn on the green light, in the next 4 years. I mean, what are your thoughts on the future of this industry?
Yeah, I think my big hope is that as legalization continues to domino state after state, not just medical, more recreational, that there will be an investment of dollars and time in the form of education, because I think that's how you're going to change minds. Like there's, as you've mentioned before, like all the propaganda around marijuana and like how evil it is and devil's lettuce and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing to me how many people still buy into that. I mean, that is like widespread thought process that people have, which is disturbing to me. So I do think, again, with legalization, there'll be more education where people can understand the facts, can understand the beauty of cannabis and how many people use it as medicine, and not just in the sense like, oh, I have my cannabis card and I can go to a dispensary. Like, I will fully say that when I was using it in college, calm down, that was medicine. I wasn't, reaching for a pill to solve that problem, which I easily could have done. I easily could have done that. But for me, the natural approach and, using cannabis as medicine in that way was very, very helpful for me. And so yeah, like my big hope for the future of cannabis, really revolves around education and also around the social aspect that we talked about before, just like liberating these people, expunging their records, using tax dollars to, support underserved or to support communities that have, had a disproportionate effect of or amount of arrests. And so, yeah, all those things feel like they should be quicker in coming. But I do think that they're on the way. I really do. I feel it. And I think that people's hearts are in the right place.
I agree with you. And it's funny, I was talking to my father a couple years ago, and he's like, I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. So a lot of people genuinely believed it wouldn't happen in their lifetime, and it's happening faster and faster now. So I look forward to seeing Rogue Paq in 5 years, down the road when we're
Yay.
celebrating federal legalization, and we're looking so good with our accessories and
That's right.
like that. So for people out there that are watching this that want to find you, that want to buy your accessories, I mean, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find the product?
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who wants to see it live, it does exist at a number of retail stores, which you can find many of them on my website under stockists. But the most sort of well-known, I guess, would be Fred Siegel. So my full line is in Fred Siegel Sunset as well as Fred Siegel Malibu. And then Higher Standards for those Higher Standards fans. It's in Higher Standards in Chelsea Market, Higher Standards Malibu. But you can also find me at roguepaq.com. I'm on social. Luckily, my handle is the same across all. It's just at Rogue Paq, ROGUEPAQ. So that's the one thing in finding me, PAQ. A lot of, when you type in PACK, it gets confusing. But if you can remember PAQ, then you'll find me on all the platforms.
Fancy. I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this afternoon, and I look forward to sharing this with all of our followers out there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.